Yeah. Yeah, this is a beauty. Oh, hey. How you doing, fellas? It's your boy Meta, coming to you from the Metaverse, wrestling representing SPW, Singapore Pro Wrestling, and you're watching Wrestle Geeks.
Welcome everybody to Wrestle Geeks recaps for New Japan Strong. On this episode, we're going to be doing March 5th, as well as going over part of the first round of the New Japan Cup itself. I am your host, Trevor Firth, and I am being joined by Tiger Driver Radio. So I have with me Juicy J.
What's up, everybody? It's Juicy J.
I have JP.
What up, what up, what up?
And L Blue.
Hey guys, how's it going?
So overall, first round was pretty exciting. Last week of New Japan has been very exciting in my opinion. I'm going to start right away by just throwing it over to JP so he can let us know how he feels about the Intercontinental situation since he wasn't on our last episode.
Yeah, I got a lot of mixed feelings now that it actually happened. I kind of have a kind of change of heart a little bit. It's like, okay, on one hand, I could see the potential of this being basically you take out that title and you could basically raise the prestige of the Never and also the US title. That I understand. However, because of the lineage of the Intercontinental title and how it's been such a, in a lot of ways, I kind of feel like it's up and down throughout the history of the title. It's been just as important as the world title, if not, more important, especially when you had Shinsuke Nakamura, headlining a Wrestle Kingdom over the world title, which is the only time it ever happened is when Nakamura had it. He made the Intercontinental title feel important. And I kind of feel like Naito was starting to kind of get to that point with the Intercontinental title where he made that field even more important. Even if he abused it, even if he kind of had a love-hate relationship with it. Now that they're taking it away and unifying it, I'm not a fan of it. I kind of have a change of heart. It's like, you know what? No. If in my opinion, because it's intercontinental, if I was playing Booker in my head, I would personally get rid of, this is just, in a crazy alternate universe, I would get rid of the US title and have the Intercontinental title float back and forth to be defended.
It's not a terrible idea. Even keeping the Intercontinental with the US would still work with that idea. Because, it's not just US and Japan. Like, it'd be UK, possibly Mexico. The Intercon could become a traveling title. That would have been a cool storyline for it.
Absolutely. And I think you could have done something with it. But on the flip side, I just think that makes the never openweight division even much more competitive and kind of breaks down the barrier a little bit more of who can actually compete against each other. Because I know New Japan is still very much about weight divisions and weight classes.
Yeah.
That's another conversation that we can have for another day. But I think with one less title that is readily available to be defended, that means that more people are going to want to chase the never open weight, which I think is always an exciting and underrated division.
Yeah.
It sounds like you. Yeah, Joe. So I think you're in a team Jay White because the other day when he beat Henare, what he was saying is that he wanted, because he's facing Tanahashi next, and he was telling him that what he should do is just let him pin him. That way he could defeat Ibushi and then separate the titles.
Yeah.
Is what Jay White wants to do. Of course, is not going to happen, but still, that's a great idea.
I like that. So before we go into New Japan Strong, guys, I'm just going to do a couple plugs and shout outs. I have Adam Robbins, who I use the little ad for his album at the end of all of my videos. Robbins is a maritime rapper. He just released a new album called Hip Hop Heals. It's completely pro wrestling inspired. Please check it out. I have the links in the descriptions. As well as I would like to give a shout out to my friend Meta from Singapore Pro Wrestling, who did the intro for this video. Now, guys, New Japan Strong, March 5th, we're doing the Strong Style tournament qualifiers. So it opened up with Leo Rush and Rocky Romero having a little each having a little piece to say about how, like, you know, the fact that, like, they're facing each other in the first in a qualifiers is amazing in my opinion. But, you know, just simple little promos hyping themselves up. Nothing extremely over the top, even from Rush, which I was disappointed from because he's usually, like, on fire.
But that was kind of cool though, having their promos at the beginning.
Yep, like we said, New Japan Strong needs to work on these little things, and they're slowly implementing.
Yeah.
But the first match of the night is a tag team match. We have Kevin Knight and Clark Connors going up against the returning Alex Coughlin and Carl Fredericks. I've recently seen Coughlin over on Bloodsport, and he looked like a monster on that. I think he was facing Chris Dickinson, though, and he took a loss. But this was just a nice introductory match, right, for Coughlin and Fredericks. And Coughlin, I love how he was, like, right in Kevin Knight and Clark Connors' face the entire time. Got right in their face, started pushing up against them. Tried, like, Coughlin is pumped, man. You could tell this guy's, like, he's happy to be off the shelf and he's excited to be back. And I like that energy. It was a nice match, had good time. Nothing too flashy from any of the guys, in my opinion. But Fredericks does hit a really killer looking DDT on Knight for the win. Jay, how'd you feel about it?
Yeah, like you said, these are the returning Alex Coughlin and Carl Fredericks. And these are the two of the guys that we kept mentioning when we had our podcast before, that we kept mentioning that these are one of our favorites. Carl Fredericks and Alex Coughlin. Alex Coughlin, that I think could be a definitely a great heel in the future. And Carl Fredericks could be, also a great heel. I think that's what we mentioned one time in our podcast as well. The only thing is, with Carl Fredericks, I'm not sure about his attire. I'm not sure how I feel about his tassels, because he definitely looks like a mean guy, and that kind of takes away from his persona, I think. It's one of the things. But as far as the match is concerned, this was definitely a great match. A very hard hitting, because, of course, Kevin Knight and Clark Connors want to prove themselves, and Fredericks and Coughlin just want to show, hey, we're back, and we're gonna destroy everybody. So definitely a good match.
Blue?
I agree with Jerry. I think both these guys have always kind of been built up as, like, the future ever since they were young lions. They've been at this for a while. I don't know. Was it like 2-3 years they've been at it with the young lions? I think eventually, like, New Japan Strong was built for guys like Fredericks and Coughlin, where it's I eventually see them getting to that top level, one or the other. I don't know if both of them, but at some point they'll be holding some belts in Strong, I feel, whether it's, new tag belts or individual belts. I feel like this whole system and them being in it for so long, they're the first in line to kind of hopefully find themselves with a character, right? With the problem with the young lion system, it's like you don't really have kind of your own character until you finally graduate and break off on your own. So it's always interesting to see what they kind of develop for themselves. Alex Coughlin has that little 70s mustache. I like him though. I like him in all the commercials. I just you kind of want to see where they're going to go with it, right? How they're going to develop after this. That's what makes it interesting. But no, a good match. Again, I don't think these are the flashiest guys. They're not going to be. From what I've seen from them, I haven't seen a lot of their matches, but for what I've seen from them, though, they're just good technical guys. They're not the flashiest wrestlers, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a difference in style.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the young lion thing too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Trevor, also to
yeah.
touch up on what you said of Alex Coughlin, at the end he did have a promo. He did cut a promo about him,
Yeah.
that his neck was hurt and him being grateful, being back at wrestling. So that was cool from him to do.
Oh, it was really passionate. I liked the
Yeah.
the energy from it.
Yeah.
JP, Carl Fredericks is the one who's like, he's graduated already. He's supposed to be the one standing out from the others. That's why he's got his own gear. And did you feel like me and you were a little disappointed that he didn't like pull out anything special for moves or anything? Like he's not throwing anything new in there yet.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I don't know if he's playing it safe. I don't know if he's being instructed to play it safe. I feel like there's a lot of potential for character development and for him to kind of branch off into a move set. It's kind of like when you go back to when Juice Robinson when he left the NXT system, the developmental system in WWE, went over to the New Japan Dojo. A lot of people for the longest time were like, "Oh, hey, that's so and so from NXT. That's so and so from NXT." And it took a while for him to shake that stigma off of him. And then once he was allowed to kind of be himself, and he was no longer a young lion, and like I said, he was in the same class as Jay White. You got to see him prove himself, and he's fine. And after all these years, he's probably one of the top 2 gaijins in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now you have, Carl Fredericks, where I think you need to either take the shackles off of him, or unless he's doing it himself, he needs to start presenting himself in a way where you're kind of like, wow, okay, this kid is a threat. Because right now, I don't see him as a viable threat to anything or anyone. It's kind of like he's just there at this point. However, with Alex Coughlin, especially with this showing in Bloodsport, you kind of see something like, okay, wow, okay, this kid might still technically be a young lion or newly graduated. He hasn't really branched off into expressing who he is, but having that opportunity, especially when he went against Dickinson and then Kratos, you're like, this kid has something. Like, you can definitely, he has something, and he has it. It'll be interesting within the next 5 to 7 years what that it actually means. I'm just a little disappointed in the fact that when it comes to Carl Fredericks, he was the first person to be allowed to graduate. He graduated quickly, and he's shown me nothing. And I think that he needs to either unshackle himself, or he needs to have the New Japan office push him. I don't know which one it is, because like a lot of times you have to obey what the front office wants from you, and other times people kind of shackle themselves. And I kind of will go into that later on as we talk into other more established wrestlers. But Alex Coughlin, on the other hand, I think he has it. I really think he has like that it factor. And
absolutely, I agree with you.
And I can see it. I can see it from 1,000 miles away.
Jay, do you want to announce the next match, considering who one of the contestants is?
The DKC versus Tom Lawler.
Yeah. And so this is a qualifying match for the Strong tournament. And oh man, this was a good one. I really love this match. DKC just looked so tough. And like, I know like you could tell at first Lawler was letting him get in some of those strikes at first, but then Lawler actually started to get overwhelmed at some point.
Yeah.
And like it was just really good back and forth. DKC just doing that the never say die spirit. Some really great hard hitting spots. And like I just wrote my my notes here that it just felt like a mini war between the two of them. Like it was really I loved it. But eventually the Lawler wins with a penalty kick.
Yeah.
And he doesn't use the penalty kick in MLW. He's doing this specifically as a call out. So
yeah, on this match, I know you said it was a war, but to me it was a little one-sided for I don't know, maybe I guess I think Lawler maybe was that strong that's why I felt like that. It felt like DKC was, couldn't one up him even though it was a back and forth, it was still Lawler on top. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
yeah. To
It's the
me,
never. That's what I meant by it's the
Yeah.
never say die attitude of the young lion versus that veteran who just like always knows what to do next and always manages to come to figure something out. But like DKC didn't stay on the mat.
yeah.
You know,
No,
he-
he did great. I just thought that, and I guess what I wanted to bring up is that I thought just the DKC was gonna do much better than what he did. Is what I thought. But
That's fair.
but then he still did the good though. I just wanted him to do great, I guess.
That's fair. Tom Lawler, we haven't seen him in a little while in New Japan Strong, and he has his own version of Team Filthy here. So, how are
Yeah.
you feeling about it so far, Blue? About him moving on and this version of Team Filthy?
Oh, I love Tom Lawler and Team Filthy. They're a big reason I like to watch Strong. I just he's a good example of a wrestler that wears his persona as well. I mean, he's wrestling in those little what are those jean shorts, like super short jean shorts. He just doesn't care what anybody thinks. And just like every member of Team Filthy, like Kratos, I think Chris Dickinson is also a member. They're just like this tough guys. And Lawler kind of comes off to me like a Kurt Angle sort of deal where
Mhm.
he thinks he's better than he actually is, but he's still good, right? Like he's like really proficient, really sound, but his mouth moves faster than himself, I guess. And he's the perfect heel. Like you love to hate him, but you can't hate him because he's that good. But yeah, this like you guys said, this is a good example of like the upstart babyface against the experienced veteran heel, where the heel just got really cocky and doing his moves and his submissions, and he got overwhelmed at some point where he had to resort to desperate measures. And right from the beginning, though, like you can tell Filthy and his mentality. He just like kicked DKC square in the chest. Like
Yeah.
that's how the match started. He just kicked him down. Because again, that's I love Team Filthy. I love watching them in MLW, and I like he's kind of having this international influence. I wish I could see him in New Japan. I've never seen him do like that kind of like long tenured match, but I think he's really developing himself well here.
Yeah.
Like with the New Japan style of match, because if you watch MLW, the matches are like if you're lucky if they're 10 minutes long.
They're very
But-
they're very fast paced.
Yeah, but I mean, it's good. It's still good wrestling. I'd still recommend you go watch MLW. It's such a fun show. But for him, I feel like he's still adjusting to this style of wrestling with New Japan, where it's matches are a little longer than average.
Yeah.
They average in the 10 to 15 minutes, and that's a non-title match, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, seeing him develop here is great because he's got the persona, he's got the talking down. And he's only going to get better at the proficient stuff, the technical stuff. So yeah, big team Filthy supporter here. If he has a shirt, I should go get it.
And buy the jorts too.
Yeah, I'll wear him to the next wrestling show we go to.
Well, that was fun. That was funny what Kevin Kelly said. He's like, oh, he's taking off his small shorts to even some smaller shorts or something like that. That he said something.
Anything to add, JP?
For me, like, I think the one thing about Filthy Tom Lawler, and I agree that I want to see him wrestle, in Japan. I want to see him wrestle with those, because I feel like his style, like I said, he comes from the MMA world, and I feel like him versus a Zack Sabre Jr. or him versus, Okada would be such a stylistic difference, or him versus Minoru Suzuki and have them just go shoot on each other for a while. It would be so interesting to watch. It would be so fun to watch, and I would love to see that. I love the contrast of styles, and I kind of feel like Filthy Tom Lawler, when you let him actually do his thing, and he's not confined by time limits, you start to see a lot of that striking and MMA background come out a lot more. And I feel like that style is in essence the heart and soul of what New Japan came from. Was a lot of the influence of early MMA, pre UFC. But I would absolutely love to see Tom Lawler mix it up in the main roster. We'll call it the main roster at some point.
Tom Lawler versus Yano.
Anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take anybody versus Yano. So main event of this show is another qualifying match. It was Lio Rush versus Rocky Romero. And this was, again, like we said, they have a New Japan has that longer style of match. This was like a 12, 13-minute match, easy. And it was pretty fast-paced the entire way through. Both these guys were just going the entire time. I'll be honest, Rocky Romero, it's been about 2 years now since I've really, really enjoyed his solo matches.
Uh-huh.
So, as much as I love Lio Rush, this match didn't do much for me. But I'm very happy that Rush did steal the win. Did manage to reverse a roll-up and steal the win on Romero to move on. But yeah, I'm just not a fan of Rocky Romero for the most part. So, yeah, this one was a miss for me.
Yeah, no, I think I agree, and especially because of promos they had at the beginning of the show, I was like, I was super excited. I was like, oh man, maybe this is when Rocky's gonna let loose and show us what he's really made of, since he hasn't done it for a while. And no, it was a good match, but it was okay. Well, it's not a 5 stars for me if we're gonna use a star system. But it was a good match. I mean, Lio Rush is still doing good. So,
JP.
It's really weird because when Rocky Romero is on, he can be absolutely on. And personally for me, the last time I felt that Rocky Romero was on was in a Ring of Honor show about 2.5 years ago at this point. And I believe it was him against Dragon Lee. Him and Dragon Lee had a barn burner at a show, and Rocky Romero was actually not just keeping up, but actually showcasing himself so well. And if you watch a lot of his work in the mid to late 2000s, he was also great then as a tag team wrestler, as well. And I've seen how great Rocky Romero can be, and I just feel like sometimes he tends to, I don't know, it seemed like he just kind of phoned it in. And this could have been a much more big of an epic match with someone with Lio Rush, who I think Lio Rush is having an awesome bit of a career renaissance outside of the WWE.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know if it's he's just not a fan of Lio Rush or what, but anyway, I feel like he didn't do him right, in my opinion.
I will say there was this cool spot that I'm watching again right now where Leo does it's like a lot of luchadors do. It's like a handspring off the ropes. Like they're standing on their hands and then they spring back up. And he just kicks them, intercepts them with a kick to stop. That was a pretty cool spot. But yeah, I kind of agree with you guys. I think, and I kind of blame New Japan's booking of Romero for this. It kind of makes me hard to care for anything Romero's doing when, he was regulated to being like a Taguchi kind of in Japan. Which the Taguchi's great too. He has really good matches, but they're still kind of like the comedy guys. At least that's the way I've always seen it from what I've seen. It sounds like. Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah, and it's hard to take him more seriously here, and I think this was kind of a good first attempt for that, and I think the way they can break him out of that, like I said, either associate him with a stable, make him heel, because right now I think he's just kind of the way I see him. And I'm gonna contrast this with AEW. He's like a QT Marshall. He's good. I just don't care what he's doing. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna expect you to win when you're just a coach. And that sounds really bad, but it's just kind of as a wrestling fan, that's how I see it. Unless he's managed.
I mean, he is in fact part of Chaos, but then not to veer off the topic, but Rocky Romero as a member of Chaos, and I think Chaos as a faction as a whole needs to just go away. I think it's been done. It's done. It's over. It's done. And which is why it makes me happy to see a new faction like United Empire come around, or Suzuki kind of getting more headway, in the scene and stuff like that. But I feel like I completely agree with you. Like there's a QT Marshall, and his job is important. He's a good hand backstage. He does a lot. I know Rocky Romero is very, very, very important in terms of like the foreign talent, especially with the business interactions with any foreign talent that are outside of Japan wanting to work and how things are done, in the New Japan locker room. But it's really hard for me to get invested into someone like Rocky Romero, where it's so up or down. And for the longest time, I feel like it's been very down.
Mhm.
Yeah, but see, he's the one that's helping New Japan Strong enhance themselves, make themselves better. But I mean, this is his opportunity to do that, and he doesn't take it. Does that make sense? Like, I understand what he's just more of a backstage guy now. Even sometimes does commentary, but still, like, it doesn't give him the excuse just have an okay match. He should have had a great match.
If you're gonna if you're gonna bother to get in the ring, then go all out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's my team for today. You should have great matches.
So tonight on New Japan Strong, we are going to be getting more qualifying matches for the Strong Style Evolved tournament. We're going to be getting Fred Rosser versus JR Kratos, and Jordan Clearwater versus Hikuleo. Any predictions on those?
I think Hikuleo is going to go over. I know that's for sure.
I think Rosser's going over.
You think?
On Kratos, yeah.
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 Okay.
If Kratos, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I feel like if Kratos has to lose to someone, it's going to be someone that's smart, like more experienced and just smarter than him, whether it's by count out or some shenanigans. But yeah, they're really. I feel like they really want to get behind Fred Rosser, which I'm not like the biggest fan of him. But I mean, he looks in great shape. Like he'd kick my ass. That's the way I say he'd kick my ass. So I can't say much about that. But I don't know. It's just maybe I haven't seen enough of him to be like, wow, he's not my filthy Tom.
Well, that's fair.
I think Hikuleo's gonna lose. I think they're gonna fillet him. You get it? Like fillet him, but fillet him. He's just gonna lose like fillet.
Oh God, I hope not. Jordan Clearwater is good though. Like I do enjoy his in-ring work. I just feel like he's very cardboard when it comes to his personality. Personally, but that's something he can work on with time. So
yeah.
So Jay, I'm going to shoot it over to you. We can go over to the New Japan Cup 2021.
New Japan Cup 2021. So the New Japan Cup 2021, I think for me has had a mix of great matches, not so great matches. And so let me see, where should we start? Let's go ahead and go with JP. What's your top match for this cup?
Well, I'm actually going to kind of go I'm not going to really talk about top match, because if you're going to talk about top match, I'll flat out say Shingo versus Okada. And
yeah,
I was happy to see Shingo go over. I know why he went over. I mean, like I said, there is rumors of Okada working severely injured with 2, ruptured discs.
Yeah.
And yet he's still. What's incredible is that this man is that injured and he's still able to put on these amazing classics. And he had a match of the year candidate already with this year, and then he had another one with Shingo this year. And like I said, in my opinion, I think Shingo is a guy that needs to get pushed heavy. I think you need new stars at the top. I think you got to kind of, let the brakes off a little bit of Okada and Tanahashi and Naito. Like I said, Tanahashi is up there now. His knees are shot. It's pretty obvious. Okada is starting to get injuries. I think he needs some time off, even though he's stubborn. And Naito's knees are, I think, they need to slow the brakes on Naito a little bit as well. And you got to make new stars. And I think Shingo is that guy, is one of those guys that can usher in a new world title picture. So I'm stoked about that. And then I'll kind of go off and talk about in essence of making new stars and making new top guys. The other problem I have, and it kind of coincides with the tournament match of not being so great, was watching like I said, I make jokes about it, but watching Yoshihashi and Yujiro Takahashi was just a match. It was just a match, and there was nothing special, nothing invested for me. And here is my complaint about those two guys. Like I said, if you make it in New Japan Pro Wrestling, it goes without saying you know how to work. You know how to work. You are not incompetent in that ring. You know how to work. No one will ever deny that if you on that roster, you know how to work. Absolutely. Like the New Japan roster and that system is so good at drilling in fundamentals and making sure that wrestlers are fundamentally sound so that way they can carry a match no matter what. However, when you have a guy who is uncharismatic as Yoshihashi and as uninteresting as Yujiro Takahashi, the one thing I love about Japanese culture is that loyalty does carry a lot of weight in terms of job security and in terms of how you get treated well because, okay, you're a good worker, you're doing good at your job, good. But I kind of feel like this is where I don't like New Japan, where it's like just because a guy is a good hand and is loyal does not mean you need to keep pushing him into these into these tournament spots. In my opinion, I'm like, pandemic notwithstanding, there's so many other guys on the New Japan Strong side of the roster that you could have brought over for the New Japan Cup, make it a little bit more interesting instead of bringing these guys that when I watch this tournament, I look at the brackets, I'm like, okay, definitely not going over. He's going to go over here, lose there. This guy definitely isn't going over. Like there's so many, I mean, obviously there's always going to be predictable elements in these tournaments. Yeah. Yes. But I think what I'm tired of seeing is I'm tired of seeing a lot of these lower to mid-card guys, these mid-card to lower guys that clearly are never going to be a contender that are occupying spots when there's other wrestlers on the roster that could take up those spots to make it interesting. And I kind of feel like I don't think there's anything wrong with releasing certain wrestlers and getting other wrestlers in, in throughout Japan. Like I said, I thought for sure within the past 2 years, you would have at least had a guy like Zeus or from All Japan Pro Wrestling crossover, and it didn't happen, or other wrestlers. And I just feel like the whole loyalty thing it's a little tiresome for me because there's a lot of wrestlers on these tournament brackets and on these shows where it's like, okay, you're here, so I don't care. And if New Japan really wants to make that transition over to becoming a dominant company or a competitive company in America, which I know that they want to, it's going to take a lot more stars, and you've got to make more stars. You can't keep relying on the same 3 to 4 guys to carry that belt or to carry these tournaments. Like, no. Which is why I was really happy to see that Okada ultimately lost and you had Takagi advance, which I hope he continues to advance because I think that's a guy that dominated, Dragon Gate, and hopefully now that was still within the prime of his career, he can have a good stretch of career in New Japan where he can be considered an all-time great. And I think he can. Because at the end of the day, not everybody's going to be a Minoru Suzuki and have health until 51. On average, they're not going to.
I will say the left side of the tournament was much more interesting and harder to call.
Absolutely.
Than the right side of the tournament. And when it comes to like Yoshihashi and Yojiro, I feel like both of these guys, I'm fine with them being in the tournament, but they should have both been eliminated in the first round, in my opinion. Like they should have just both lost in the first round to build to an interesting second round match. Because you have Okada versus Shingo, then you had Naito versus Great-O-Khan. Those were interesting matches, but like, what are the interesting matches? The super interesting matches in round 2. You know what I mean? Like they kind of blew a lot of the really interesting stuff on the first round.
Exactly.
And I don't think they structured correctly to have the second round looks decent right now, but there's nothing that really pops out to me as like whoa, that one's going to be great, the way that we had a few in the first round that did.
Absolutely. And I think a big problem with that is just they need to start making new stars. You got to make new stars for people to care about. And I think, you can't rely on the same 3 to 4 guys to carry a tournament. You can't.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, pre-pandemic, that G1 that happened, at this point, going on 2 years ago, was one of the most interesting because you had Kenta come in. You had John Moxley. You had Kota Ibushi finally show up after, I think, a year absence. Okada was still, white hot. So it made things very interesting. And I think New Japan needs to start making new stars to kind of alleviate that problem where things seem a little, like I said, it can become uninteresting at times and a little too predictable. And I think that just takes some of the magic out of what makes New Japan exciting. It's like, you got to make new stars to mitigate this problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna touch up on that match you just discussed, JP, on Yoshihashi and Takahashi. I think there's something controversial, well, for me, at the beginning of the match, because Takahashi, of course, he has his cane that he carries around, and of course, when he walks into the ring, and he's hitting Yoshihashi with it, keeps hitting him. The ref is, of course, he's turned around, he doesn't see it. But at one point, he is Red Shoes does turn around, and he does see Takahashi hit him, Yoshihashi, with the cane, but he doesn't disqualify him. Like it's like I see that's like really controversial. Why not just disqualify him there and then let Yoshihashi move on? I thought that was a little messed up. Like I never seen them really do that. From what I remember, because I seen times when they get chairs and all that gets used, but most of the time the ref is knocked down or he's not looking. But this time he did look and he saw him and he just kind of did a signal, kind of like, oh, well, because he's covering up his hand, or it's okay, or he could continue, something like that, and they moved on. But I just thought that was a little weird how they booked that he could use it and the ref was cool with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of makes for inconsistent. Like the refs can be inconsistent like that. I'm just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And it takes it away from me, which is why, like, I think that referees also need to be held accountable for making matches great. Because sometimes referee botches can just ruin it. It just sucks the wind out of a match.
Yeah, man, I'm married to one, preaching to the choir.
Yeah. Referees are, in my opinion, referees are tragically underthanked, and they're also super important if you really know what's going on.
Yeah. Absolutely. Actually, I will say I've been watching more and more Japanese wrestling in general, and I have an issue with Japanese refs. I just feel like they don't train the refs well enough before using them, in my personal opinion. Because I've been seeing it in more than, not just in New Japan. I've been seeing it in a couple of other places I've been checking out. So it's consistent, and I'm like, ooh, I don't like that. But anyway.
Yeah, but that's another conversation. It could very well be a matter of Western perspective and how they viewed referees versus how we view referees.
Yeah,
man, I'll get my wife on an episode, and we'll do a whole ref talk episode one day.
Like, I think it could very well be. Like I said, it'd be really interesting. And like I said, this is another conversation for another day. But it's really interesting if we could get a ref. Not just your wife, of course, but get other refs that maybe have had experience in the industry, and for them to talk about their perspective.
Yeah.
Well.
That's funny because in the match I had selected, I was going to complain about that as well, which was Naito versus Okan. Red Shoes clearly sees Okan hitting him with a chair. And Red Shoes kind of does this thing where he just puts his hands on his waist and he's just like disappointed in you, but he doesn't really do anything.
Yeah.
And I like to give them the excuse where it's like, well, maybe because it's a tournament or a title match, they're more lenient on the rules. They're not going to DQ someone. Because I rarely see any DQ finishes in Japan, but that's me just giving them a biased opinion there. That it really Japanese refereeing is a interesting topic because they'll make some of these mistakes you don't see a lot in the US where it's like, oh crap, I turned around and I saw it. Well, fuck it, let's keep going.
Yeah, because it seems like they're okay with chairs. Like anything it's around the ring that's there regularly, like they're okay with. Like, so if you hit somebody with a chair, like you said, Blue, if Red Shoe sees them, he's like, oh, okay, that's fine. I mean, it's a share. Things is gonna happen. It is what it is. But they're usually not cool with other things, like I said, with canes or anything else. They're not supposed to ring bells or anything. But it's just weird. It's weird. Yeah. No, but go on, Blue.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's something that bugged me about that match. But just to get into more details about the the Okan match. I was surprised by this one. I thought Naito was like, oh, he's got this in the bag. It's, it was a fresh match, but it's one of those bracket busters that's like, nope, we're gonna put Big Okan over. I realize how young he is too. He's like 29. He does not look 29. He looks like mid 30s. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not the biggest Okan fan. I'm not crazy about his gimmick. He's like, he has like the Chinese vampire thing going on, because he has a hat and the little thing in front of his face. I think it's a Jingshi. I think I'm probably butchering how it's said, which I think that's cool. It's just he just wears it to the ring and takes it off, and he's just this big lumbering dude. I don't know. I am not the most interested into Okan, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way about it.
I'll be honest, when I see his teeth, I just get sad because I think of Kitamura.
Oh man, he was great.
He was so good.
Whatever happened to him?
Injury. He's done.
Yeah.
He got hurt so bad that he had to retire.
That sucks.
He would have been a monster.
Such a promising prospect. Such a promising guy. Like, incredible work from him. But yeah, that's my issue with Great Okan, is that every time I look at him, I go, you should be Kitamura. I'm sad now. No offense to Great Okan, like, he is pretty good. It's just, I really feel like this would have been Kitamura's gimmick and everything. Like, anyway, that's my my 2 cents on that.
What about you, Joe?
For me, well, the match I enjoyed was Juice Robinson versus Kenta. And the reason I like this one, because I from what I saw it, I think there was a lot more story behind it, and I think Kevin Kelly should have maybe pronounced it a little bit more. I know he did in the beginning of the match, but he should have touched more on it, because this is a story of Juice Robinson trying to get revenge on Kenta from hurting him, from taking him out of the Wrestle Kingdom, and also getting him out of having a match with Kenta for that suitcase to have a match with Moxley. He's coming back and getting revenge for that. And then Kenta, of course, is a story of him getting, retaining his what do you call it? Him proclaiming that he's still a good wrestler because he just lost with Moxley. He just lost, he keeps losing and he needed to win. So for me, this was a match that was a little bit more than just a match. So that's why I really liked it. Of course, Juice was also hitting Kenta with all his might, because again, he's trying to get revenge on Kenta for everything that he did. And so, yeah, I really liked this match. It was hard hitting. It's awesome that Juice is back, because he's one of the people I like to. I know JP mentioned earlier he's one of the top guy genes. So yeah, I think this was a good match for me. 17 minutes. Kenta advances though to the second round after submitting Juice Robinson. But it was a good match for me.
Tune into Sacrifice, man. Just tune into Sacrifice on Saturday. Impact Plus, free to watch. Come on.
Let's do it.
All you have to know, like, seriously though, No Surrender, Sacrifice, all the Impact Plus events, man, all free to watch as soon as they're done airing. So I'm just gotta say that's pretty damn good. But yeah, Finn Juice are number one contenders. They're going up against the Good Brothers for the Impact Tag Titles on Saturday.
Nice.
But
definitely
JP,
have to watch that.
Yeah, JP, if you want to hear you mentioned earlier, like the stink of WWE and getting that off of Juice Robinson, right? If you want to hear my thoughts about, like, Blue got to hear it when we went over Revolution, but I went over how I feel about the whole ex-WWE thing on that, and I'll just give you a little, like, snippet of it. But basically, like, WWE's had a 30-year monopoly in the goddamn business. It's like when people went after Matt Cardona was my, like, final straw for me, because I was like, are you guys seriously punishing this guy for being recruited and hired by WWE as a kid, spending his entire career there, and then being fired. So he's not allowed to work AEW. He's not allowed to work Impact. He's not allowed to work any of these places yet because he's got to get that stink off on the indie scene. That's just dumb.
You know, I do agree with you. I agree with you more than I disagree with you. The only small part about that is that I do think the one thing about WWE, and I hear a lot of talent say this, is that especially if you come from that system and never been anywhere else, is that there is a certain style of work that WWE wants from you. Everything's about hard cameras, everything's about pacing, so on and so forth. Everything's very routine in a lot of ways. And when you go out on the indies or go to Japan, the work rate is completely different. And that's the one thing that's like, whoa, okay, I can actually work like more to what I want to do versus what they might expect from me, you know? So in that sense, you do kind of have to work out the kinks that, okay, you're no longer working that sports entertainment style. Now you can go to Mexico and work that lucha style, or I don't know, go to Japan and work a strong style, or, you know, whatever promotion you decide to work in. So there is a little bit of that stink that's inevitable that you're going to have to work off because you've been indoctrinated.
That's an in-ring like style that you have to like work the kinks out of.
Yeah, of course.
But, like, the way people react, it's like, oh, you're ex-WWE, why should we watch you? Why should, like, don't hire this guy? And I'm just like, why?
And that's,
you know, like, that's just silly. Dumb.
That's stupid. And that's stupid for two reasons. At the end of the day, relative to the wrestling world, relative to that world, going into that ring, whatever company you work for, that is your office. That is your job. That is your 9 to 5. So if you work for a company for so long and you're not happy, or you get fired, or you're like, yeah, fuck this, I'm done, you can't blame a man to be like, you know what? I don't want to work in WWE anymore. Or you know what? They're going to lowball me the money that I think I deserve. I'm going to go over here and work in XYZ promotion, and they could give me comparable money, better schedule, better benefits. It's no different than if Jerry decides, you know what? I don't want to do this job anymore. I could get paid way more over here, or better, and have better hours. You know, it's all about life, quality, balance, so on and so forth. It's no different than wrestlers. And the funny thing is, it's so funny how because of that 20-year monopoly or 30-year monopoly, but really in the past 20 years, WWE has gone relatively unchallenged after WCW and ECW folded. That is an entire generation. That means kids born in that same year when those promotions folded were 1 year old. And now that you have AEW, they're 18, 19, 20, 21.
Yeah.
And they don't remember. They weren't even around when I grew up. When I remember seeing, oh, wow, I'm watching Nitro, and holy shit, Bret Hart showed up after the screw job. Or holy crap, Rey Mysterio's on SmackDown? Like, and back then, they were the ex-WCW guy or the ex-WWE guy, but there was a lot of excitement about that. And I think a big problem with today's wrestling market, and I think some of that's getting broken down a little bit, which makes me happy to see, is that nobody remembers. A lot of these kids, and you can't blame them, they're not going to remember what it was like in that time frame where there was at one point in North America, there was 3 major wrestling promotions, and seeing people jump between them was super exciting, and you were fucking happy to see that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's why I say 30-year monopoly, because to newer modern-day fans, WCW, ECW, WWE, it's all the same goddamn thing.
Yeah, to them,
it's all the same.
It's under the umbrella, but for someone like me, it wasn't always WWE.
Yeah, exactly. For us, it's not the same thing, but when I say 30 years, I mean it from like my kid's perspective.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I feel like there's this indoctrination of fans that think, oh, I don't like AEW because of X, Y, and Z. When I'm like, no, AEW just is a different show. It presents different. It's produced different. The ring style is different. The emphasis is different. Just like if you look at NXT, even though it is clearly WWE, NXT still plays very different than the main roster.
Yeah. Before I talk about my match, I'm just going to say one last thing on that, basically. Look, if you could watch a 3-hour Raw every week, and if you are just watching it and bitching, complaining, and hating it, guess what, man? You got worked.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they want. you got work.
Again.
Like, you're watching Raw weekly for 3 hours, and you're bitching about it. They're still getting their money. They don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, and that's the thing with these fans that they got to realize is that, and like I said, I've been guilty of that, where you go from watching WWE for years and years and years, and then you watch a different style, and you're so accustomed to how one thing is done, you're like, I don't really. But then you give it a try, just be patient with it, and you're like, okay, I see why people love whatever promotion. Like I said, I didn't get into wrestling as a kid and automatically start thinking, oh man, it's all about work. It's all about work rate, or it's like I only like watching stiff matches. Like, no, to me, the best thing in the world was watching Hulk Hogan, and then it wasn't until years later where you're like, ugh, God, like no, that's not what I like anymore.
Speaking of stiff matches, my match for round 1 was Ishii versus Sonata. I feel like that was a decent segue right there.
Yeah.
It was a good opportunity. And for exactly that, like, okay, first of all, Sonata looks like $1 million.
Yeah.
Like, he keeps consistently changing his ring attire, and it just keeps looking better and better and better every time. And I'm like, how does he keep doing this? But I like Sonata's one of my top, I think, right now in New Japan. Like, he's that guy who I feel is always right on the cusp of like exploding and doing something absolutely incredible.
They need to.
But him and Ishii has always, like, every time I see these guys fight, I get excited because I know the quality I'm going to get. I know exactly what I'm going to get out of this match, and I'm never disappointed by this match. Because ultimately, if you've seen Sonata versus Ishii, you've seen this match. Like, it was nothing spectacular. You've seen this match, but I just really love them that much as a pairing. But the only other thing I'd want to mention is Yano and Fale, because that was the most freaking hilarious thing I have seen in at least a month in wrestling. Like, oh my god, that was good. Just to see Yano like trying to kick his leg up over the apron to get into him before the count, like, oh, that was so good. And I keep saying, I want to see someone in a tournament win and get all the way to the finals by doing count-out wins constantly.
That'd be hilarious.
No, I love count-out wins as a heel tactic, because even as a babyface tactic, when you're fighting a really big, powerful enemy, get that count-out win. Like, be smart. And I feel like count-outs are just not used often enough in wrestling. At some point, I'm going to force a local guy to have the gimmick where he's just going to win by count-out constantly, and they're going to hate me.
The count-out king.
Power of a fucker.
I love it. I agree. I think Yano was it the G1? I remember he won a couple of his matches. I think he taped like Sonata's legs and arms together. And he like runs back into the ring and somehow beats him. And like, that was one of the matches I think it was a G1 or something.
Yeah. I remember there was a G1, I think it was either 3 or 4 years ago, where he did the same thing to Suzuki, and then they had like another G. You know how like during the G1 when when it's not your night to wrestle a bracket match, a tournament match, you'll just do a tag match. Next night it was LIJ versus Guys of Chaos. Immediately, Suzuki just went over and started just kicking the shit out of. It was hilarious because Yano was just on the ground like, oh my god, like guy's murdering him. He was so pissed he lost a G1 match, during the tournament. Like, you think Suzuki should be able to murder this kid? No, he got tied to like the fence post and then couldn't move, and that's how he lost.
Yeah.
Kevin Kelly did bring it up on commentary, like how the tables were being turned on Yano.
Wait to see what he did to Great Okan. If you haven't watched it today,
I haven't watched that one yet.
Yeah, wait to see. It's cool stuff. It's funny.
I was gonna ask, round 2 matches. Is there anything that really pops out to anybody? Really stands out? That's good. They know it's gonna be fun, and they're going to enjoy.
Like JP said, Shingo is really awesome. Shingo versus Goto is gonna be good.
Yeah.
One I'm looking at right now is Suzuki versus Kenta. Seems like that's a good one, at least for hard hitting.
That's gonna be good. I agree.
And let's see, Zack Sabre versus Will Ospreay.
Always good.
That's gonna be really interesting now because now
the winner's gonna fight Sonata.
Yeah. Also, Ospreay's a heel now.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
For the entire time that they have wrestled, from the time they were in Rev Pro up until like maybe 2 years ago in New Japan, Ospreay was always losing against Zack Sabre Jr. and Zack Sabre Jr. was always that snarky submission expert heel. Now you got a heel, and I kind of feel like Suzuki-gun is kind of like in a face, kind of. Everyone's a face in Suzuki-gun lately, a little bit more. So
You're not wrong.
they're not these like asshole heels that got kicked out of Pro Wrestling Noah. Now.
Come on, we saw the picture of Tai Chi and Desperado. Like, these guys are playing it up now.
So fucking hot.
Ship it. I ship it.
Yes.
Man.
Finley versus Yoshihashi.
See, for me, like Finley versus Yoshihashi, I feel like it's obvious because, okay, Jay White versus Tanahashi. I feel like it's gonna be Jay White, and then it's gonna be Finley versus Jay White.
Mm-hmm.
See, that entire half of the bracket, except for Ospreay versus Sabre, is completely like cookie cutter. Like, okay, this, like JP was saying. I can call that entire half of the bracket, other than that one match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
But the left half, on the other hand, like Suzuki and Kenta, no idea.
Why are you breaking my Yoshihashi dreams, Trevor? Like, I want Yoshihashi to go far.
Because I got Chase Owens in the first round, and if my version of Yoshihashi can't advance, then yours.
The American Yoshihashi.
He is. He really is. I mean that in a positive way somehow.
Yoshihashi, you're the greatest.
Yeah, but guys, that was. I think we made content. I think we did a content that was fun.
Yeah.
So you guys released a little post on Tiger Driver saying that you guys are coming back soon.
Dun dun dun.
Can I squeeze anything out of you for it? Any plans yet specifically, or?
Go for it, JP. You want to say it?
You posted it. You go first.
So we're coming back soon. Definitely, let's see, in a couple of weeks. Looks like our tentative date is March 27th. So we're coming back with the show, with the podcast, maybe doing a little spin on it, maybe doing some new stuff, and hopefully you could join us, Trevor.
I have a local indie show on March 26th, so if I can make it, I'll have a little bit of a local report to give you guys.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, we're definitely going to do some cool stuff, so keep a look on our social media, on Facebook and Instagram. We're Tiger Driver Radio. On Twitter, we're Tiger Driver Rad1. That's RAD1. You could reach out to us, tigerdriver@gmail.com, or just search for us on Google. But yeah, I mean, it's cool stuff's going to happen. Trevor, hopefully, is going to join us whenever he can. And definitely, hopefully, we can join him. We should be able to join him on this show, too, because this is pretty fun.
Love having you guys. Thank you very much. So, everybody, we're just letting people know we have a special. We're changing the schedule a little bit because we have Sacrifice this weekend. So we have the Impact recap going up tomorrow morning in time for Sacrifice, and then we're going to have the Sacrifice recap up on Tuesday morning before the next episode of Dynamite. So thank you very much, everybody. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment down below about what second round match you want to see, who you want to see in the Strong Style Evolved tournament, or anything else you want to mention about New Japan. Have a good one.